Journeys is recorded at Doghouse Studios. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube to keep the conversation going. Remember, if you like the content, like the content. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 5th. I'm Chad Jones, and this is Journeys. How are you guys doing today? You doing good? You doing bad? Doesn't matter. Journeys is here to talk to you. Yesterday I talked about relationships, talked about, hey, no cats today. That's interesting. So I talked about, obviously I talked about my cats, I talked about my first date with Annette, and I talked about the, kind of coagulation and combination of getting, there's a cat, hi Lily, of getting Lily and moving in, and then getting Callie and moving to an apartment, and just always kind of having that. So today we are going to talk more about relationships. I'm going to keep on the story of my family, kind of how I built my family. The next member that joined us is Samson, actually. Samson was a wedding gift for Annette. That was what I wanted to get her. I wanted to get her a Bernese Mountain Dog. And damn, did I feel foolish when I found a Kijiji ad for like a cheaper burner. They're usually on the higher end of dogs because they're huge and expensive and beautiful. And I found a cheaper end dog, so I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, okay, you'll send me some money in, as a deposit, and I'll put a dog aside for you in the next litter. I was like, okay, that sounds fair. Here it is. And then that would have been in June, and we were getting married in July, mid-July. So 6 weeks later, I hadn't heard from this dude. And I was like, yo, this guy just took money from me. So a week before the wedding, when we were driving up to, the cottage, which was where we were getting married, Annette and I tell her, I'm like, hey, this is what happens. This is what your gift was. And I don't know if we're getting a dog, but I really wanted to. So that was, that's what I told Annette. And that's kind of what happened. And then maybe a week and a bit, 2 weeks after we got back from our honeymoon, I got a text like, hey, when do you come to pick out your dog? I was like, no way. And it wasn't until Annette and I got in the car and drove 4 hours from London all the way to Victoria Harbour, which was by Barrie. It was like 4-ish hours. And that we physically saw and held little puppy Bernese Mountain Dogs and saw older Bernese Mountain Dogs. And that it was like, wow, we're actually getting a dog. And it wasn't just any dog. It was a Bernese Mountain Dog. This was Annette's dream dog. And oh man, I remember picking out the dog, and Annette immediately was like, I just want the chonkiest one. I just want the biggest one. She didn't care. There was one that really attached to her. It had this specific little pinkish nose pattern, and the guy up there microchipped it, put it aside, and we were like, okay, we have our dog. He's like, okay, you can come probably pick it up in 3 to 4 weeks. More context. I was going to be going to Western that September when we got the puppy. So it was a lot of ones. And I mean, like I said, we already had our 2 cats living. We were in London. We were living with Annette's parents, and we had our 2 cats. We had their 2 cats, and now we were getting a dog. All before I was going to a very intensive program at Western. Something was going to fail, but we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, I guess when it came down to actually going to get the dog, when we drove back up, the guy seemed super confused as to which dog we got, and he scanned it and he said, oh, this is you guys, right? And we're like, no, that's not us. And he's like, okay, well, then just go pick any dog. So not only did we get a different dog than the one we were initially going to get, Annette once again picked the fattest one, assuming that the dogs hadn't changed in any way. And she's like, yeah, the fattest one's still probably the fattest one. And yeah, we picked him up and brought him home. And I remember the entire car ride home, he just sat in Annette's lap. Samson he was a Samson the moment we got him. I think the two names we were picking were Samson and Cooper. I like Cooper, she liked Samson, but Samson just stuck. Yeah, and that's kind of a brief overviewing of how we got Samson. Now, how does he affect our family? Wow. Oh man, now that you kind of know the history, here's the context. Samson is probably the greatest mess you could ever get. Like, he's a mess, but I love him so much. Like, he knocks everything over. He is kind of clumsy. He's lazy as all heck. He's exactly like me. He's a dog version of me, except I think Annette loves him a little bit more, and she keeps saying that if Samson was a human, we wouldn't be together anymore. It's funny, but kind of hurtful. So, but I get it. Because if Callie was a people, she would definitely be my bestest friend. And if Lily was a people, well, she'd actually probably be just like an emo girl, just like in her room all the time, writing poetry about how the world sucks. Right, Lily? You're kind of an angry cat. Now they're just both on the chairs. I feel like I want to so that's one thing I've been considering about Journeys, is making Journeys into like a video platform as well, because it is on YouTube. And because it is on YouTube, turning Journeys into a visual medium, I could actually show off my cats. And that's the thing, is that I think there's my little thing going in my story. Oops, you didn't mute it. But now you guys can actually see that I am live, I am doing stuff, and I am recording. So be a part. There's my cats. This is what Journey Studio looks like with all the toys and everything. And this is great radio. I know it's not a radio, it's a podcast, but heck, podcast, radio, whatever, it's the same thing. So derailing myself with Samson. Samson is just absolutely a doll, though. Like, Sunday morning, I think I fell asleep cuddling with him. He was in the corner with me, and he just put his head like right up against me, and I think I fell asleep on and off until Liam decided that, no, you can't sleep with Samson anymore, and he jumped on me and, Daddy, wake up. I was like, no, Liam, I'm cuddling with the dog. I have Samson, please stop. And he's like, no, Daddy, wake up. Daddy, why are you sleeping? It reminded me of, what is it? Dara? From Finding Nemo, the little girl with the fishy, where she's like, Fishy, why are you sleeping? Wake up. And she like violently shakes the bag. Oh. Yeah. Whew. Man, relationships are definitely weird. I think on the other end, I'm actually going to talk about what I call is like the intertwined relationship, which is relationships that are constantly in flux, and you pick up and lose each other and find each other, and it's better for that time off, I guess. I don't know, we'll see, but I definitely have some in mind that I want to talk about, and that'll be on the other side. Or maybe maybe we'll also talk about my relationship with myself and I don't know why I said moi. I don't know, I'm like the worst like francophone French person. Like, I understand it a little bit, I talk it a little bit, I have some words, like I can try to imitate a French accent, like try to say the words properly, but I'm as English Tirana as you get. I don't know what an O is. They're all like Ontario. I'm from Tirana, Ontario. Oh man, I don't think anyone's ever said it like that before. That's so bad. But I'm actually going to take a small break, and I will talk to you on the other side. intersections in life are quite curious, because two main roads may collide and meet, and you may drive on later just to find the road you had met earlier has wound back around to meet you again, different, changed. I was thinking about it when I saw this crescent when I was driving like a week ago, that on one side it was one name, on one side it was the other name, and then further down I saw it again, and again there was a name on one side and a tertiary, a third name on the other side. I guess the first road that it had split off into, it just kept going in the direction or just never came back. But the crescent had started one name, changed on the left side of me to come back and change for a second time to a different name. And the road wasn't necessarily a big road. Actually, in fact, it was a road I wasn't going to turn down, a road I can't turn down. I just noticed it on the GPS, like that it looped back and changed names again. And I found that interesting, because this analogy or metaphor could be looked at as a person. I don't really know how common it is or how often it happens, but when somebody in your life that's important intersects with you for a while, and then for whatever reason you don't speak or talk and you go your separate ways for a bit, just to return different but the same, I found that very similar to this crescent. And that's kind of, it was a long way to bridge from the last section to this section, but I want to kind of talk about the flexibility of people in your lives. And I'm sure everybody has that. I mean, there are people in my life that I wish I knew better, and I know them half as well as I'd like. And there are people in my life that I like them half as well as they deserve. That's not true. Everyone deserves to be liked. I was trying to quote the Lord of the Rings, but obviously I didn't. Speaking of my update, still haven't finished the first section of the book. Haven't really had a drive or want to read, but I'm reading like maybe 45 minutes a day, half an hour to an hour a day. So I thought I'd be clearing 100 pages. I'm barely clearing like 30, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I really like the divergence from the movie. I really like the path they're taking and the journey they're on, because I know the destination. And that's the thing. I'm looking over here at my Malazan book set. And I'm like, well, I know what happens now. Now I want to see how they do it. I want to see how he pulled off this epic book, this epic series. And that's kind of the next step for me. Continuing on with this will be like a little update from the last 2 weeks, I guess. So my exercise, inconsistent still, but I'm still trying. I'm gonna try to get out for a run. I mean, it's raining, but I'm gonna get sweaty, so it doesn't matter to me. And then, yeah. Ooh, that spiked. And then my diet, like, I'm watching it to an extent, but then last night I didn't eat until like 10 o'clock because I worked a 12-hour shift, and I should have just not eaten. That would have been the better idea. But yeah. So quick little update and back to relationships. I know it's funny that some people are in perpetual flux. Like me, I feel like I'm in perpetual flux, where I'm constantly changing, and the connotation can be seen either way. Like I'm gonna be 30 and my personality is pretty much just gonna set, and my lifestyle is just gonna set. So I like to have an active lifestyle, but hell, I know people that one day they wake up and they lose they lose all desire to be lazy and they want to work. And maybe that's where I'm at, because honestly, like, I enjoy work. It was a long day because I had to drive up to Sutton. And for those of you who don't know, Sutton is like Keswick area. It's like north of Newmarket, northeast of Newmarket. And I had to do this drive at like 5:30 at night, or 5:30 in the evening. So it was a long drive. No headphones, which made the drive just that much more dry. I did have my phone on. I did try to listen to my podcast through my phone. It's just not the same without headphones. Like, I missed a lot, but man, do I love the Malazan series. That's a podcast I'm listening to. I'm gonna binge it until they get to Crippled God. Yeah, I definitely have to find more places to support them other than Patreon. Because, I could go on Patreon and be like, here's $1 a month. You've earned my $1 a month. But the podcast's called 10 Very Big Books. If you guys aren't into reading the series, it's a very good summary with ideas and concepts and really saying what's going on. I don't know. The one thing that I find about the podcast is one person's read the entire series, and I don't think I could keep hush-hush about, like, the whole thing. My buddy Josh, who finished the series, really was good at, like, not spoiling anything, and I was going back, like, oh, man, this book was so cool, and this was so cool, just everything. And, I mean, with Malazan, the next book was always the coolest book until I got to the 9th book. And the 9th book, like, I still read it pretty quick, but it was just like a book where I was like, oh, I know it's gonna be worth it. And then when I got to the end of the 9th book, and when I mean the end, it's like 1280 pages, and maybe like the last 90 pages were just a masterpiece. Just the setup. And that's why I want to go back, and there's a lot of these books that are dry on their first read because it's a lot of setup that you don't understand yet. And then when you get to the end, you're like, oh man, that setup was worth it. Relating this back to relationships, the setup sometimes is taking time away from somebody. I know somebody in my life who's going through rough patches, and they just need time. They need time to themselves. And I feel like I'm not really giving them, not giving them time, but not giving them like the proper context for that time. And I don't know how to help them with that because, like, it's not really between me and them, but it kind of is. And I know with Annette, like, Annette more or less needs, like, just quiet time where she's just like, I don't want to see your face because your face is going to bother me. And the boys, I love them to death, but they are getting on my last nerve. I need space and I need time, and I need you to just take the boys and go away. And by that, she means, like, go to the basement, or I can go upstairs and have a bath, but I need that. Man, this is not what I wanted to talk about at all in this section. I did not want to just ramble on about that, because there was a point, which was this whole idea of these relationships venturing out, like a novel, like a book series, and just venturing on all sides and coming back. And I think that it's important to know that there are people in our lives that are in our lives for a reason. And there are people who are not in our lives for a reason. But that doesn't mean they can or won't be. They can't or won't be back in our lives. if you are missing someone, if there's somebody that you want to talk to, if there's somebody that you want to reach out to, do it. The worst thing you can get is rejected, but then you know where you stand. You 100% know where you stand. So I think it's important, especially as adults, to just find out where you stand with the people that you care about, whether it's it's somebody that you miss incredibly, or somebody that you haven't talked to, or someone you've kind of just let slip through your life. If it's been enough time and you don't know what happened, reach out. Maybe they're missing you too, because that's more likely than not. But so my new idea for question of the day is, I'm going to ask a question that I'm curious about my general audience, about more of this podcast, because I feel like the conversation is very nice, and I love hearing from Rob and Amanda, because you guys are just absolutely killing it. I don't always respond, because sometimes you just say something that I have no more to comment on, because it's just like this comment to itself. But I'm really glad you guys are talking. Please, come on, everyone, get in, talk, enjoy the conversation. But my question of the day for today is going to be, how and when do you listen to Journeys? Anyways, that's it. How and when do you listen to Journeys? Let me know, and I want to kind of get your opinions, see out how you guys listen to it. But for Tuesday, April 5th, this has been Journeys. I'm Chad Jones, and I will talk to you on another time.